A little bit later in the spring, which these trees a nickname of flame trees or flamboyant. And on our right, the Green Parrot Bar, the oldest bar in the Florida Keys, was built in 1890. Originally, the building was a bodega, like a grocery store, later used as an ice house. There's some people claim it was also a morgue. Well, it's not a morgue anymore, but you can still go in there and get yourself a cold, stiff one. Here on our left, we have our county complex. We are the county seat of Monroe County. We are quite possibly the most geographically inconveniently located county seat in the whole country. We're closer to Cuba than we are to most of Monroe County. Their courthouse was there, built in 1890, the same year as the bar back there. What an amazing coincidence. And over here on the right, we have mile marker 0. And a guy with a tie. As you go around the island, you're liable to notice some round plaques about as big as a luncheon plate with an embossed starfish on it. And these are issued by the historic Florida Keys Foundation. Honor excellence in new construction like the Butterfly Conservatory, and also renovation, especially renovation, like the house that's ahead of us and on our right. Their plaque is to the left of the front door. It's above the house number and the doorbell. And even with all that information, that thing is really difficult to spot. As we go around the corner, I want you to look up and to your left. You're going to see blue painted porch ceilings. One reason that we paint the ceilings blue is because we really do believe that it keeps bees and wasps from nesting in the rafters of the houses the insects think it's the sky. Another reason is that it brightens up cold, snowy winter days around here. That idea came from New England, and you know what? Apparently those New England people never got over that winter stuff. The big reason, though, came from the low country of the Carolinas and the islands of the Caribbean. Blue-painted porch ceilings ward off evil spirits, haunts, or haints as they're sometimes called. As we go up through the intersection, up ahead of us and on our right is St. Paul's Episcopal Church. This is the home of the oldest non-Roman Catholic congregation in the entire state of Florida. It is not, however, the oldest church. It's actually building number 4. They lost the previous 3 churches to fires and hurricanes, and they built this one in 1912 with reinforced poured concrete. They have high hopes for it. The windows are covered with heavy plexiglass. That is a common custom, and that does protect the fragile stained glass from the high wind. Now here on the right is a house with rather a lot of lavender trim all over it. And this is a very nice example of a West Indies colonial Victorian-style house. This particular structure is also known as a Queen Anne, a conservative Queen Anne. And it's up on pilings like most of the houses on our island, and that does allow air and water to circulate beneath the building. We have very few excavated basements on the island. The ground is rock and too hard to get in the hole. On our right is the oldest church in town, the Wesley United Methodist Old Stone Church, built in 1892 of material quarry right here on the spot. And on our left is the Donkey Milk House, and that house has in front of it a terracotta container, a replica of the kind of containers that they stored drinking water in many, many years ago. Over here on the right, with a pink fence and turquoise trim, is a house that was owned in the 1980s by designer Calvin Klein. The house is known locally as the Octagon House. couple of tall trees here on the far left corner ahead of us that are Norfolk Island pines, and they were planted here on the island to give us a source of masts for sailing ships. More of the holes that we have around the island, and they're everywhere. Many of these homes that we've been looking at were built when we were enjoying a great deal of prosperity here on the island. You'll remember in 1850 we were the wealthiest city per capita in the entire country, and we continued that great wealth for many, many years. By the 1930s, though, we're in trouble, like everybody else in the country, because of the Great Depression. We lost most of the population, moved away, there was no work, and of those who did remain, 85% were on some sort of public assistance. In 1933, we surrendered the city's charter. We've gone from being the richest city to being the poorest. The government sent us down an administrator to get us back on our feet. His name was Julius Stone, and his suggestion was tourism. We had a nice subtropic island and a railroad. They brought in the WPA and they put our people to work. They built our first tourist attraction, that aquarium where you can pet the shark. Planted a lot of the trees you see around the island today and got ready for a grand opening that they scheduled for December of 1935. In September of that year, over Labor Day weekend, the worst hurricane that has ever hit the United States struck north of us. Hundreds of people lost their lives. Miles of our overseas railroad, the only land access that we have to the rest of the country, was destroyed. It wasn't until 1938 that they put a road on top of the old bridges. I do. Thank you. And created the overseas highway. Now, many of these trees were all planted during that fix-up campaign. Jesse Porter House, which is now the Heritage House Museum, just donated over 300 photographs, original photographs that were taken during the 1930s by professional photographers, and they are absolutely gorgeous. And many of them have already been scanned into a database you can look at online. It's listed under keyslibrary.org. And these photographs are phenomenal, and there's so many of these houses on the island that you can recognize from these photographs. What had happened is we were so poor for such a long time, we didn't have any money to fix up anything, so none of these homes were kind of destroyed by modernization. Then the Second World War came, and there was no materials available to be good. We made extensively modern. So many of these houses, just because of our poverty, escaped getting all chewed up and being replaced with, something modern. We have, except out in Midtown and Newtown, is where you will see some mid-century architecture. But down here, there were not very many houses that were destroyed to make room for something like that. Now, up here on our left, little church, right next to it, a zigzag or sawtooth house. Look at the roof line on it. That's the second style of architecture you can find on the island of Key West. As additions came to the family, they would put additions on the house as well. High peaks allowed hot air to rise. Valleys were used to collect rainwater.